Call this meeting to order, Monday, September 8th, 6 p.m. I'm going to ask Craig first to please chair this meeting.
Roll call, please. Crosby?
Jason?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Jake is excused. Jim?
Here.
Dale?
Here.
Eric is excused. Carolyn?
Here.
Craig?
Here.
Crosby here.
This is an open meeting as posted as such. How about the Pledge of Allegiance, please? We have some recognitions. Dr. Cook?
Yes. We'd like to recognize Dairy Queen of Mukwonago this evening for graciously donating $750 in back-to-school kits to Parkview.
They have great ice cream, too, Joe. Great ice
You
cream.
have great ice cream. Ice cream cakes are delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Love that. The donation was for student incentives this school year, so we're very grateful for that. We will send a thank you off.
Thank you to Dairy Queen. Citizens' comments. Carolyn?
So for citizens' comments, we are going to have each speaker, they're going to have 3 minutes to make his or her comments. We will signal to you when you're at the 2.5-minute mark to begin to wrap up your comments. We expect all speakers to honor the time limit, refrain from using inappropriate language, and be respectful of their comments. Citizens who do not meet these expectations may be prohibited from speaking at future board committee meetings. Speakers are to address the board, not the audience. The school board does not endorse any comments made by members of the community here tonight. We would like to remind our community members of the impact of their words on others, and our children are watching. We commit to listening to you in a respectful manner and ask that you do the same. We expect the audience will be respectful of the speakers and of the board and refrain from responding with verbal comments, cheering, applause, or behavior that will detract from the meeting. If proper decorum is not adhered to, the board president can suspend citizens' comments. Please note that no obstructions can be created between the board and the audience. Visual aids cannot be used, and the area behind the speaker will be clear during public comments. Also, to respect our speakers and meeting participants, please silence your cell phones.
Thank you, Carolyn. Kim Minton, please come up. Is that microphone on for Kim? Thank you, Tom. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Please talk into the microphone, Kim. Thank you.
I have a quiet voice, too. I'll try to talk loudly. Today I'm here to talk to you about your random drug testing policy and my opposition to it. I did send all of you a very lengthy email that I hope you had the opportunity to read. It talks about the inefficiencies of the random drug testing policy and how it infringes on the students' rights. So I will try to make this one brief, but I wanted to come to you heartfeltly from two perspectives. The first perspective is my own. I do have a child who suffers from anxiety and panic attacks, and I think about if she's called out of her class to get randomly drug tested, A, she's going to think she did something wrong, and she's going to immediately start to cry. B, she's going to have a panic attack. And C, because she's physically frozen by fear, she'll either refuse to give a sample for this random drug testing, or she physically won't be able to. And according to your policy, the consequence here is that she will no longer be allowed to participate in any extracurricular activity. And the one thing that helps her combat her anxiety is her singing and dancing. I'm not particularly against it in regards to athletics, but definitely in regards to extracurricular activities and the parking permit. The second perspective I want to talk about is, what if I'm a mother who does have a child who I suspect of having a drug or alcohol abuse problem? Who do I turn to? Where do I get help from? Does Mukwonago have a significant drug and alcohol problem with your students? And if you do, let's come together as a school board and as teachers, faculty, parents, and community to find resources and ways to combat this proactively instead of reactively. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Moving on, E, presentations, summer 2025 updates. Is someone trying to beep in?
All right, Angela and I are here tonight just to talk about some summer updates and professional learning from the Student Learning and Student Services departments. The presentation is going to highlight. He is playing video games, isn't he? Yeah. Doesn't sound like
Better
Pac-Man
than
though.
the team sting, so I'll take it.
Oh, Minecraft. Yeah, that would be perfect. Or Roadblocks. All right, so for summer 2025, we're going to talk a little bit about our staff involvement, how many staff were present. Gosh, almost like every single day in summer we had staff here. If it wasn't during summer school, then it was here for a variety of different reasons. I can just talk anyway. We also had a ton of student opportunities, so we'll talk more about that, what it's going to look like for the 25-26 school year, the work we're doing in summer. This summer always leads into the work we do during the school year, and then just what we're building on for beyond, again, from that 25-26 into the future of the next couple of years.
All right, so we'll start with students. Tom, if you can advance one more. So we have a wide variety of amazing opportunities. Thank you. For our students. You can see those listed on the screen for you there. Our largest offering is our Summer Adventures program, which had about 1,400 students involved in that this summer. And then we also have several other camp offerings based on different interests. You can see those listed there. We have an Exploring the Environment camp at Eagleville. We have summer musical, Indian athletic performance, marching band, all sports academy, band and orchestra camps, and then we also offer some high school courses for credit in the summer. We had over 2,200 students participate in at least one of our summer programs. So that's 2,200 unique students. Nearly 1,400 alone, as I said before, were involved in that Summer Adventures program. And then, of course, we had our staff, who are amazing and help us run these. Nearly 100 different district teachers were involved in at least one of those programs. So you can see that our summer programming is very strong participation from our students, and very strong participation from our staff. So we want to give a huge shout out to our staff. These are huge commitments, and they put on great programs for our students. So thank you to all the staff who help with that. And of course, thank you to Ben Kasau. Normally he would be here to present this tonight, but he and Michelle are teaching our graduate course to our teachers. So shout out to Ben for his work in coordinating this. So then moving on to talk about some of the ways that our staff are involved in the summer. So during the summer, staff participate in various pieces of work. This includes professional development as well as curriculum work. So we'll start out by talking about the different professional development opportunities that we had this summer. So as you know, we adopted a new resource for 6th through 8th grade in science. Our 6th grade science teachers participated in a full day of training for this resource. Our 7th and 8th grade teachers had already participated in training when they did their pilot. So that was one training that happened. In the end of June, we had 13 administrators who attended a Solution Tree Assessment Conference in Madison. This included Christine and her team, as well as myself and my team, and then our building principals. So as we work on continuing to focus on professional learning communities, our next piece in that work is assessment. So this was a great opportunity for us as administrators to grow our capacity in this area so we can lead this work in the district. We also had early literacy training. You'll remember that we've talked to you a few times about Act 20, which is that early literacy legislation. So there's some required training there. And while all of our teachers were already trained, we've talked to you about that too. We were kind of ahead of the game in training our teachers on early literacy. All of our teachers were trained, but we did have a few new teachers to the district that we brought in this year who needed that training. So those teachers participated, as well as we did just open this up to upper grade teachers who aren't required to have the training, but may be interested in. And we had a number of teachers join us. That was completely optional. They were not paid for that training, but they came in to grow their learning in this area. Then we have a literacy pilot, which is happening. Our first pilot resource, Amplify, is underway right now in 3rd through 5th grade, and then we will be starting the benchmark pilot in the 2nd trimester. So all of those teachers receive training on their respective resource that they're piloting. And then finally, we had iReady training for our 6th grade teachers. They will be giving this diagnostic as their district screener this year, just as the 7th and 8th grade do. And then Eagleville is using iReady for math, and so they receive some refresher training there.
In the realm of student services, we started off the school year actually with just doing a student services kickoff. So we are so excited to come back and start talking about compliance. But we also have a lot of updates and celebrations also. So we have all of our student services staff, including all of our special education teachers and our other student services related services. This year we did something a little bit different for the later part of the meeting. We invited all of our paraprofessionals to come in so that they had a solid 2 hours of planning together, which is hard to get once the students are in the building. And so it was really nice to have everybody together. We also spent some time working on and then later reporting out on things like child abuse and neglect, sex trafficking, sexual contact activity, what has to be reported, what doesn't have to be reported, threats of school violence, suicide prevention, and then the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Act. So those are all required pieces that we talk about at the beginning of the school year. In addition to that, we had behavior solutions, which is associated with Solution Tree also, but did a lot of work with our staff and our leadership teams around how we can intervene for behavior at the Tier 1 level, but also at the Tier 2 and Tier 3 level. So what does that look like? So if a student isn't learning, which is one of those PLC questions that we talk about, those 4 questions, is it just an academic concern or is there something else going on? And then we also brought in Emily Rubin, who is one of the founders of the CERTS model. And the CERTS model is based on research around students with autism and how to improve communication, look at like supports, regulation of behaviors, and we had a really great attendance. I know I put that in the weekly update, but Rolling Hills had an outstanding attendance, and I put them right there in that photo. That was all of their, gosh, they had the biggest group there, and their administrative assistant, Allie Zimmerman, was there also, which I just thought was super cool. So.
All right, so then in addition to the professional development, we also dedicate time and funds each summer to curriculum work. So this is to continue to move forward our goal of ensuring a guaranteed and viable curriculum. This is optional work, and every summer we have hundreds of staff members who come in to engage in this important work. So again, a shout out to our staff. Michelle and I, as well as the coaches and sometimes some of the administrators, work with the different groups on this work. So at the elementary level, the work included specific grade level work for the teachers. They would meet in their specific grade level. And for kindergarten through 5th grade, the focus was really on Bridges math cover sheets. Bridges was our new implementation last year, so we were working on our cover sheets for our assessments so that we can make sure that we are updating parents on their students' progress and they understand what those scores on the assessment mean. Our 4th grade team also made some changes to some of their social studies assessments. And then we had our 3rd through 5th grade pilot teachers work together with their instructional coaches to start working on building out the units for their pilot. And then finally, at the elementary level, our 6th grade met in their content teams for ELA and science. Both of those teams have new resources, the lab aids at 6th grade, 6th through 8th, and then the My Perspectives at 6th through 10th grade. So they were working on creating those new units. And then the math team met to start creating some spiral reviews and aligning their assessment practices. At the secondary level, we had a great deal of specific curriculum work that was happening both at the middle and the high school. So again, a great focus of the work was building out those units for the new ELA and science resources. We have those resources, science again through 8th grade, and then the ELA up through 10th grade. So a lot of work was done there. Our instructional coaches really helped a great deal with that work. And then a number of different departments came together to make some revisions to their curriculum. This included all of our core subject areas, as well as several of our CTE courses and our world language courses. And then for our academic essentials course, this targets specially designed education. That group came together, did a lot of work around this course, creating a common syllabus for all grades, 9th through 12th grade. They worked on a point system for grading, and then worked on planning some weekly themes around executive functioning. So some great curriculum work that happened there. Again, we thank all of our teachers, as well as our coaches and administrators who helped with this work. And then each summer we hold our administrative learning days at the end of July. So this is 4 days of learning for our administrators and our leadership teams. So on 2 of these days, we bring our school leadership teams together for learning and for working on their building goals. On one of the days this summer, our guiding coalitions, which are our PLC leadership teams from each school, along with their admin teams, came together and had a full day of learning from a consultant from Solution Tree, Cassandra Erkins. This is one of the people that the administrators heard and attended sessions of hers when we were in Madison for our learning around assessment. And so we had a great day of working on how we can really adjust our assessment practices to ensure growth and increased achievement for our students. And then specifically for our guiding coalitions, how they can lead this work within their buildings. Cassandra Erkins will be coming back on September 26th to work with our middle and high school teachers, and then she will be coming back again in November to do some coaching with them as well. And then in addition to this, we brought each school's leadership team together for a full day of work on creating their school goals for the year. Again, this is something that we do every year. We shared our district level data that we are focusing on student growth, and then we guided the teams to create their goals to reflect that focus. And then Christine's gonna talk about the administrator days.
Yep, so these administrative learning days are 4 in a row, so everybody is exhausted at the end of 4 days, but it's a ton of really good learning together. And so after those 2 days with staff and our administrative council, then we also have 2 days when we're with our building leadership teams. And so we got to talk about budgeting, Tom got to talk about numbers, Rachel talked about educator effectiveness and the STRONG model, which I know she's referenced before in some of her presentations. We talked a lot about school safety. We did some scenarios and some behavior norming around what that looks like in different situations. And then we also talked about some of the processes through student services. And I know, Jen, you've met Jen Tyson and Jamie Dobner, both program support coordinators. They did a fantastic job, just like Michelle and Ben too. Ben do. We are a tight-knit group, and so between the 6 of us, we get a lot of our different ideas embedded with one another. So it was a really good day of learning. Then my 2 favorite days, though, are new teacher orientation. I love having our new teachers here. You would know if you were here on that day. We roll out a large, like, red carpet, and we have some jams going on, and we are just really excited to welcome our new staff. So during those 2 days, we have really good food. And then we also talk about, so Andy Wagner gets a chance to talk about buildings and grounds. Noelle Mengi gets a chance to talk about our health services. We take a district bus tour, which is very fun. We have a lot of fun facts that we get to share, so I'll just share one with you, see if you know, especially you, Ms. Simons. Back in the early 70s at Big Bend Elementary, what is one thing you could do in the basement there? You could roller skate. There's a public roller skating rink in the basement. Yes, I know.
I was going to say swim because it
Yeah.
flooded once.
Yeah, so we get to talk about a lot of different fun facts as we take the bus tour, and then all the building administrators come out and welcome them on the bus, and I point out all the speeding traps in the area of Mukwonago. So it's a really good couple of days. Then on that next day, we talk about our mentor program, because all of our new teachers in the field do get a mentor. We talk about some assessments. Ben and Michelle come in and talk. And then we also talk about instructional practices. And so we were really excited again to welcome in those new staff. And we've had a chance to do some touch points since then, and it's been off to a good start. So then we have our 4 back-to-school days when our teachers are back. We kicked off the back-to-school days with Joe talking about the new middle school, and we were able to, Joe showed the video of the one that you've, the 3D. Thank you. Yes, the middle school video. So that was great. I think people really appreciated being able to see that. And so then that morning, or actually the building welcome back day, the first day was in buildings, which I know our administrators really appreciate being able to see staff first and welcome them back. We also had the 26th, that started with Joe, and then we had some rotations that included a session from Rachel on professionalism, and then that strong model, that's that educator effectiveness model. Student learning talked about assessments, and student services addressed behavior. August 27th was back in with buildings, and also that student services time for that kickoff. And then August 28th was similar to August 26th. We just flip-flopped with the elementary and the secondary. And the feedback all the way around was super positive. I didn't hear any negative feedback, and any feedback that we did get is always welcome. Like, it's great if we can do things a little bit differently or do something more or something less of that. So it was a really good 4 days. It was great to have everybody back. All right, do you guys have any questions?
Thought you didn't work over the summer.
Me?
It's a joke.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, I'm here. Our teachers, the big myth that teachers don't work in the summer. Our teachers are busy all the time, and they're like so much gratitude for their work.
Thank you. Approval of the school board meeting minutes, August 18th, 2025. Consent agenda. Any discussion? Approved by consent. Policy, student government.
Yep, so some questions came up over the last several months just about how student government was selected and how they run. In August, at the COW, we had the student government policies on, opportunity for the board to take a look at what we currently have, what is proposed from Neola, and then there were some other ideas that were generated around student government. So it's back on the agenda tonight for any discussion that the board might have, and then how we would proceed forward as a school district.
And just to clarify, this wouldn't even take effect until next school year because we don't want to disrupt what they've already done, correct?
Correct. A lot of the schools already had selected student government the student governments last spring, so we have kids in place and activities that were already planned. So Stephanie Blue is here tonight, this evening. If anybody wants to hear how this operates at the high school, for instance, she can talk a little bit about the high school and student government there.
I just think what we lack in some of the schools and going to conferences, we're lacking like teaching students civics. I can't think of a better way than to have real representatives of the students by then having them elected by their peers. This has been a pet peeve of mine, and this is why it's on the agenda. I just think students should learn how the process works, how to run a campaign, how to sell themselves with their ideas, obviously with coaching from staff, and to be representatives, true representatives of their student body. They should be elected by their students.
Stephanie, do you want to explain that? A couple minutes, real quick, how that procedure goes now? If you don't, that's okay too, I guess.
I can say no.
Hey, Steph.
So for the high school, and I think this is how it goes for 6th to 7th grade too, the advisors talk to the previous school's advisors and ask for a group of students, so 6th graders coming up to 7th grade that have already been involved in student government and are incredibly helpful with that. And those students become, I don't know if the middle school calls it their cabinet or their advisory group or whatever it may be. And then obviously at the middle school, they earn a ton of awards for their student government because so many kids then are involved in it. And then the same process happens with the high school, minus the fact that there is an interview also from middle school to the high school to then select those kids that are going to become our student government. And it's 1 hour a day that they give up. It's not an elective, or it's not a credit-bearing class, but we basically give them a study hall together so they can operate and do all the activities that they need to run the school.
Anybody else?
I just have a
Crosby.
question. I think it was 11th and 12th grade at the high school and 8th grade at the middle school are eligible to participate. Is that correct? What was,
No, the high school, it's 9th through 12th graders in the class.
so anyone can be elected? Or I thought there was a grade limit on, maybe I read it wrong, on who was eligible to be elected. Everybody gets to vote, right? But who is eligible to be elected?
So again, I'm going to speak for the high school because I'm not as familiar with the middle school. There's not a vote. The students do vote for the president, like the students on student government vote for the president and the vice president,
Okay.
treasurer, secretary, but the students are recommended coming up from 8th grade and then can stay involved if they want to throughout high school.
Okay.
That's the current policy, but
It's
the new
the
stuff
current.
we're
Right. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I meant the new
sorry.
policy.
Gotcha. I'm not as familiar as that because I'm
Okay.
learning about it as you're talking to.
I was just curious why it was only 12th and 11th graders and 8th graders who were eligible to be elected to student government.
So what's in
We can
what's in-
change any of that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
what's in nothing in board docs right now is a formal approved board policy. Everything in board docs right now is draft language. You can see a couple templates in there from Neola, and then some ideas that were generated and presented to me and then put on the agenda.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, Stephanie. Number 2 under policy, Joe, student search and seizure.
May I just ask one question? So
Sure.
as far as from the student government standpoint, if the board would like, I can pull our advisors together during the next month, sit down and have a conversation with them about what is being presented, what's being talked about. I can bring that feedback back in October if the board would like, and then we can keep that conversation going throughout first semester.
I would like that.
Okay.
please.
Yeah.
Number 2, student search and seizure.
Thank you. So we, Stephanie again is here if we need insights from the high school, which does use this. So items 2 and 3, student search and seizure, and 5330.01, random drug testing, those two kind of go together as we look at policies that would govern breathalyzers, randomized drug testing, so on and so forth. And when this question first came up, I did reach out to our council to ask them to take a look at our policy. If you look at 5330.01, you'll see a redline version in there. So our attorneys recommended that if we do want to continue with this practice, we would need to make some policy changes. So just for a little background, any student can attend public school, right? The only thing that would prevent them from attending public school is either parent choice or expulsion from a school district. And the bar is pretty high for expulsion, as we have talked about in some of our meetings. So that being said, you can't randomly drug test or randomly breathalyze a student who is just showing up to school. Now, where you do have some access to this, and the Supreme Court has supported this, is for students who are involved in athletics, activities, parking privileges, so on and so forth. So anything that would be considered a privilege associated with school, not a right associated with school, but a privilege, you can then put these restrictions in place. Going back in our history, this policy predates me, this practice predates me in the district, but it is something that a lot of neighboring school districts, a lot of school districts in Wisconsin have put in place. We do know that there is increased usage of vapes in our schools. Christine has presented that information to the board. There's been an increased use of THC vapes. We have presented that information to the board in the past. Last month, the board took action to approve a part-time grant-funded AODA coordinator to help us assist with that particular issue that we're facing. Christine's got our disciplinary practices hammered in. So we're doing a good job as far as the discipline end of it, and then what are we doing when we know that kids are using. What this randomized testing does, though, is it's an added layer of deterrent for students that are engaged in the extracurricular, the co-curricular, and the parking privilege at the high school. And I believe, when I've done my research, that that is why it was put in place a number of years ago. So if it's something, we obviously have a discussion on it tonight, but just from some background perspective, that's where it came from, and then legally, that is how it is supported, because these are optional activities for students. They don't have to participate in them. That's where you have the right then to put those testing layers on those kids.
Greg?
Anybody else?
Yes.
Crosby.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
So I believe we talked about this last year. I think it was last year. And I had asked, how effective is the policy in actually deterring drug use? And I don't know that I ever really got an answer. And when I looked, I didn't really get a great answer. Is there any data to support using a drug testing policy as a deterrent for drug use?
So, Christine, if you could jump in on that. And then Stephanie, would you mind coming up to the mic too?
So when I presented in July, I'm going to give you the background first. I reported that we had tested 90 students, and we had 11 positive results within those 90. And so when we are informed that a student is having a substance issue, whether that's THC or whether that's nicotine related, we're able to wrap some supports in place. So I talked about us doing the AODA position. We've brought that in this year as a 50% position. That person will be a liaison between home and school, and then whatever community partnerships are in place. So I think when I sit in pre-expulsion meetings or suspension meetings, I will talk to kids about, you have a reason to say no. There are naturally built-in reasons in your schools to not engage. And I think Stephanie can talk a little bit about the impact that you would see at the high school level with having things like random drug testing, knowing that there'd be random breathalyzing at the games, et cetera.
Yeah, so I also can't speak to hard data to show that it's a deterrent. What I can say is that we hear kids verbally saying that it's a deterrent. As far as the breathalyzing at the football games, I would also say that we are not seeing students who are that we believe are showing up inebriated or under the influence to our football games. And I think that we have really good data to support the fact that our kids are not getting in accidents leaving games, which would show me that they're not coming to our games that way. school, the majority of the students that we are finding under the influence have either THC or nicotine in their system when they are testing positive. I guess my other concern is just if that is taken away as a layer, then those kids are not getting any support. I mean, in this way, although I can understand that proactive is a better way to deal with this, sometimes that is how we know to get a student support, is because they are testing positive, and now we can go about getting that student the support.
So if we, this is a randomized drug test, so how do we randomize it? And then follow up to that, if we suspect, or if a parent suspects that their kid is using, can they be randomly selected for a drug test? Like, what is random and how does that work?
So the administrative staff has nothing to do with that. It is, used to be when we worked with a healthcare system outside that they would provide the students, and now our clinic provides the students that we are testing. So that's not touched by, it's random because the administrators are not at all involved in making that decision. We just get the list, and those are the kids that we get the morning of.
So even if there was a concern, we couldn't necessarily test that kid
So
if they fell into one of these categories eligible for testing.
I'm not sure that I'm totally following, but we can add it as part of like a behavioral agreement if they're coming back to us from an out of like a 5-day suspension or something like that, and we're looking at doing an agreement with some boundaries in place for them to return to school campus. We can add them into the random drug testing pool. And what was the other part of your question?
Are you looking as if a parent suspects that their child is using, could they come to the school district and say, could my child be tested?
Yes, that
Okay.
is part of my question, because my concern is, although our numbers of positives are low, it's still not a deterrent because we have positive tests. So if we're looking at taking somewhat of a proactive approach versus a reactive approach, and we suspect that kids are at risk, why aren't we testing those kids?
So again, if a parent, so two things, if we can look into if a parent is concerned that their child is using, could they come in and get a test? We certainly can look into that and see. I can ask Tom to talk to the clinic. They're the ones that do the drug testing. The reasonable suspicion standard, this is for extra co-curriculars, and so we're not testing for the average student who is not participating in anything. That's the group that kind of gets left out of this. It's for those kids that are accessing extra co-curricular and parking privileges. And those kids are in that random sample. You know, if a student breaks the law and we know that they broke the law, for instance, driving under the influence, the police then can take care of the sobriety tests, either through a blood test or a field sobriety test, whatever it is. But we don't have the authority to mandate based off of our suspicion that a student take a test. That's a bit invasive. That's too invasive for this. It's really, if you're going to volunteer to engage in an activity, you then are subjecting yourself to the testing.
Okay. I guess my bigger concern is the biggest at-risk group is the group we're not allowed to test. So I find that to be frustrating. But also, I don't really find this to be a big deterrent. I don't think there's enough evidence to support that it is a deterrent. So I would rather look into things that are more proactive and actually, you know, engage the parents and the students, because again, I don't think we should be, you know, parenting the children. I think that the parents should be parenting the children. So I really struggle with this. I don't know that I'm necessarily even for a drug testing policy.
Jason?
What is the percentage of our students that fit inside of that box that we can currently test?
Stephanie, what's our participation about?
Last year, we ended the year at about 79% of our students involved in some form of a participating in something.
So, Dale?
How long has this policy been in place, drug testing policy?
Give me 1 second, please. It was put on the books July 30th, 2018.
So I think even in your comments, you even said that drug usage has gone up, vapes, drugs have gone up. I think that's kind of like further evidence I see that it really is not effective. I really do think just by parking on a publicly funded parking lot and saying you got to get a drug test, I really think that violates students' rights. I know the courts and the attorneys, they push it. I think saying it's legal, they find loopholes into it. I just think it's violating someone's individual rights. I think we should find other places. I'd be more than willing to look at a dog, hiring a dog and coming through and sniffing around for drugs. As Stephanie said, there's ways, just like a police officer, when you see somebody that appears to be drunk, like Stephanie had said, they come and they don't appear to be drunk at school or at the football games or whatever events they are. I think that should be the criteria of doing a breathalyzer and checking a student for drugs or alcohol. I think you should have evidence instead of just doing randoms on students.
I will disagree with that, Dale. I think random drug testing or random testing makes kids think about it a little more. That's my opinion.
I think that's the parents, and we do enough of that in our curriculum to teach against this.
I think the
So
parents
in
should
meeting-
absolutely be involved.
Right.
The parents should, if they want to call the school to have their son or daughter drug tested, maybe they should just take this. They should take the kid down to the police station like they used to happen.
They
Something.
That should be a family matter. They should go to their own physician and have them.
We could.
Have 'em-
Agreed.
I think schools.
Carolyn.
Go ahead.
How much does our drug testing program cost us now, Tom? I know now that we go through the clinic, we've saved an extensive amount of money, so I'm just wondering what each year's investment is.
Give me 1 minute and I'll pull it up here while we sit here. Give me 1 second.
Mike.
Well, I was just going to say anecdotally, since we don't really have evidence, I truly believe, at least for the ones participating in athletics, when my son was in high school and his friends, freshman year, sophomore year, and once they're really into their athletic thing they're doing, I think it was a deterrent for them. They did not want to get kicked off the team.
Carolyn.
Following up with, I agree. I think having it there, I know we're not here to parent the children, but for those children who don't have a parent that is holding anything over their head, if the only thing that this kid has is sports and their extracurricular or their parking permit, and they know that that can be taken away because of a stupid decision, I'm fine holding that over some child's head so they don't make a stupid decision.
What exactly is all being tested for? Is it just nicotine, THC, and hard drugs? Or are we looking for peds? Or, I mean, what all's included on that test?
I do not know the answer to that question, but I'll get you that answer.
Okay.
There's a certain number of panels that you can include. So there's like 20 panels, 8 panels. And I will get you that answer here. To go back to Carolyn's question, we spent $900 last fiscal year, the 24-25 school year for the drug program. So the costs were, yeah.
That's
Much cheaper now that we have an in-house clinic.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Tom. Anybody else?
Just one last thing.
Mike?
If we decide to go through with keeping this random, perhaps we can address something for, I guess, rare exceptions, as was presented during the citizen comments. In case there's someone who really would have some kind of, a problem like taking the test or some kind of exception for that, for rare exceptions like that, of different ways to accommodate it.
We could certainly look into what that accommodation would look like. We would have to be very careful as to how that accommodation then could be used to avoid if a person was.
Absolutely. Yep. And I don't have the answer to it, but there's experts out there who may.
We can look into that, yes.
I just wanted to add, I don't find.
Talk to the microphone, please.
I just wanted to add that I don't find the fact that the drug use rising is necessarily indicative of it not being a deterrent, because 2018, our neighbors to the south medicinally and recreationally passed marijuana. So, I mean, access has greatly increased. Not that it was, hard to find beforehand, but the access is just that much greater. So, I know, I was in high school once, and if if that would have been on the table, it would have been a deterrent for me for sure.
And we do battle, I mean, just the availability of vapes. You know, I think somebody shared with me there are 17 locations in Mukwonago where you can get a vape. The availability of certain things, there's things that we don't deal with anymore in school that we used to deal with a lot. You know, you don't see cigarettes in their traditional form anywhere near what we did 10, 15 years ago. Marijuana, as you know, was available 15 or 20 years ago in herbal form, for lack of a better way of saying it, is not the thing that we're battling. We're battling vapes. We're battling the vape cartridges, either THC in them or nicotine in them, and that has been the challenge, not just for Mukwonago, but for all school districts. The vape has changed the game in the chessboard that we're playing with our students.
Dale?
Christine, do you want to address like what happens to a student and the help they can get, like what we have available as a school district?
Sure. So, as a school district, all staff and families have access to something called Care Solace, which I've presented on before.
Christine, can you talk up a little bit, please? Sorry.
That's okay. Called Care Solace, and so that is a mental health navigator. We use that because it's really hard to always be like the counselor will call a clinic to get a student in or try to get a therapeutic route, and then the parents trying to call during work, and we all know that when that physician calls back, we're not by our phone, back and forth. And so Care Solace has been a really key piece in helping our families navigate the mental health network. So that's one piece that we have available. We do some tier 1 instruction when it comes to like our health classes. There's been the discussion of what that would potentially look like if we were to do something proactive at the middle school level. I would agree with you, Crosby, that I think we do miss an opportunity when our kids are younger to proactively teach. I've reported that we have students using vapes as young as 7th grade, right? So making sure that we do that education early. We have a really large student services group of counselors, school psychs, social workers. Our teachers and our students and our staff are asked questions about if they have a trusted adult in the school. Do they have somebody they can go to? Our numbers are really solid around that. And then in addition, we just received that grant for $50,000 so we can do the AODA grant position, the coordinator position. That person will monitor all of the either students found in violation, but more importantly, when a student is found in violation and they have, say they're going to be doing like a vape educate type program, which is something as a district that we can purchase, then it's that relationship building and that not just to sit and get, but that let's talk about this in real time. Like, what does that look like for you? How do you say no? What does that sound like? That social situation aspect dynamic. And it's really hard for some of our kids to get off, so we have to have some really honest conversations about that.
I do have an answer to the question of what do we test for. So we do a 12-panel test, so a test for 12 drugs and nicotine on top of that. So the drugs are oxycodone. Sorry, I don't know all these, and this might be shorthand. Oxycodone, benzos, meth, THC, cocaine, methadone, opiates, barbiturates, ecstasy, PCP, and nicotine.
So
Does that help?
No sports-related PEDs or anything like that?
It doesn't appear that steroids are a part of that.
Jim?
I'm not sure where I stand on this, so I have a couple of questions for you. One, the test as it's administered, is it just a simple mouth swab?
It's a urine test.
It's a urine test, okay. Treated similar to an athletic code of conduct, so that only people who are participating in the extracurriculars listed have to be tested. Is that, I guess that's my question, is it necessary, is the pool that we're testing right now necessary, or are there valid concerns about if we're overreaching, who's being subject to the test right now?
So it'd be anybody who's in athletics, in a co-curricular, or if they park on school grounds.
In the co-curricular, the activity is just competitive. Students that are competing as part of an activity.
So that doesn't apply to any of the clubs or
Correct.
like if you're in theater or anything like that, it doesn't apply to that?
It does apply to our theater students because there's a performance there. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
Just-
Mike?
So just to reiterate, of the tests that people fell into the category, it was rough. It was like 11 out of 90, so over 10% tested positive. I guess, you know, I still want to think it over, but right now I'm leaning toward I'd like to keep it. And I guess one other bit of information, can we find out or get like throughout our state how many school districts are doing random drug testing, or do we already know that out of all the districts?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I know in our neighboring communities, I know Oconomowoc and Muskego test. I don't know, Joe, if you know of any other ones.
It is increasingly popular. We can look in to find a number for you.
Thanks.
So we're going to bring this back and answer some questions. And
Yeah, well, I would ask if we could bring this back for the October cow. That would give us the time to do the research that we talked about tonight.
thank you. Okay. Personnel topics. Number one, support staff wages. Tom, I take it this is you. By the way, how did your 6th grade team do Saturday?
We won 2-0.
Who hit the home run?
Aaron Zimmerman, safety in the end zone. So this one is Rachel here, so she'll take this.
Oh, sorry, Rachel.
That's okay.
Support staff wages.
Tom often takes credit for my work. So.
Every chance I get, Rachel.
Wow, shot across the bow.
No, Tom and I actually did work together on this. So we have updated the support staff wages for 25-26. We have really been able to remain competitive, and so we didn't make a lot of changes. If you remember last January, we made a pretty significant change in our buildings and grounds wages. We offered a bonus for a sign-on bonus, and then we changed, again, all of those rates. And again, we've been really competitive. We've not had any hard-to-fill positions in these areas. And so going into this year, essentially we cleaned up the document. We removed positions that are no longer positions in our system. And then we increased the seasonal summer buildings and grounds position for non-students from $15 to $18 to, again, just be competitive with the market. And that's it. So I'll come back to you at our next meeting with hopefully a recommendation to approve these changes.
Thank you, Rachel. Anybody, any questions or concerns? Carolyn?
With the increase for the buildings and grounds, how has retention been for those positions?
Fantastic.
Good.
Like fantastic, yeah. In fact, we just hired for one of our positions. We had a great candidate pool, and we're seeing when we do have to fill a position, it's typically because we're losing someone due to retirement, not because they're taking another position, which is great.
Good.
Rachel, school calendar as well?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we are moving in with the development of our school calendars, and this year what we're going to be presenting is a 2-year proposal for the adoption of our school calendar. So going into the 26-27 school year calendar, we are currently looking at all sorts of options: extension of a school day, extension of the school year, shortening up or coming to school a little bit earlier, all sorts of things to really account for the bullet points listed there. So we want to give the construction team as much time as possible to get the school up and ready, the new middle school up and ready for a launch in the fall of 2027. We want to make sure that we still, while we're doing that, have time built in for staff to have professional development. With all of that, we have to make sure that we're still in compliance with state instructional guideline requirements. So if we do change anything with start and end time, that would require us to fill out a waiver with the state. We'll obviously keep you posted with that. And then obviously, most importantly, making sure our kids receive a high quality educational experience. So we'll be taking some drafts of these versions of the calendars to our teacher advisory and then our parent advisory this September, in hopes to bring you drafts of the calendar in October. So again, lots of versions that are currently out there right now, but these are the things that we'll take into account when we present the final version to you.
Thank you, Rachel. Any questions for Rachel? All right, moving on. Student learning topics, AP Biology Resource Pilot.
Okay, so this is an informational item, excuse me, on our advanced placement biology course at MHS. So this course is currently in the curriculum renewal cycle. We are looking to adopt a new textbook resource for this course going into next year. As a reminder, with our advanced placement courses, there's some different requirements that we have for these courses. One of those guidelines is that the text needs to be updated every 10 years. So we are about at that 10-year mark for our textbook. And then in addition to that, the College Board will often make restructuring of their courses, and they did that in 2019. So we are very much in need of looking at a new textbook here. In these courses, the textbook is really a critical piece because these are college level courses. The amount of content that is covered is very specific to those AP guidelines, and so we are looking at getting a textbook that is better aligned with that. So we started this work last year, worked with the AP biology teachers to review a number of different textbooks that are on the approved list from the College Board. We looked at 4 different books, and then based on carefully reviewing those, with the number one thing being how well they align to the required AP content, we have selected 2 textbooks to pilot this year. So we will be piloting biology for the AP course, which is published by BFW, and we're piloting just 1 unit from each of these. For that textbook, we will be piloting Unit 3, which is Cellular Energetics. And then we are also piloting Campbell Biology in Focus, AP edition. This is published by Pearson. And we will be piloting Unit 2, which is Cells, Structure, and Function. So that pilot will take place this fall. As we do with all of our pilots, I will work with the teacher. We'll collect feedback from the teacher, from the students, and then we will update the board on our progress and give you a recommendation. Any questions?
Thank you, Angela. All right, going to action items, hires, retirements, resignations.
All right, we have 2. Ashley Schrouth, who is being recommended as our AODA, oh my gosh, I can't talk, AODA coordinator at the high school and then SOAR. She has a 50% position and a limited term contract. And then we are welcoming back Chris Butler, who just recently retired and is coming back as our Title I teacher at Eagleville and then St. John's, and she'll be on a .38 limited term contract.
And you're looking for action tonight, correct?
I am.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the hires.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 2024-2025 budget amendment.
Yeah, so we've talked about this for quite a while, and before you is a budget amendment to ultimately recognize, when we set our budget in October, there's a lot of things that happen over the course of the school year. Some unrecognized or unanticipated expenditures occur. Some unanticipated revenues come in. And so the budget before you are things that you've been kept abreast of throughout the course of the 24-25 budget years. So this amendment ultimately is just recognizing and acknowledging, yes, the actual revenues and expenditures are things we are aware of, and we're recognizing that through board action. So this requires any type of budget amendment through board policy here, requires at least 2/3 of all board members to approve it. So I would do this one as a roll call. And if you have any questions about anything here, let me know.
I make a motion to approve the budget amendment for 2024 through 2025 as briefed.
Second.
Roll call, please. Crosby?
Jason,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Crosby, yes.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Is that it? We are going to convene into executive session. Do I have to read this whole thing, Dale?
No. Just
Okay.
read the statute and what we're going to.
Statute 19.85, 1D, any meeting of the governmental body upon motion duly made and carried may be convened in closed session under one or more of the exemptions provided in this section. The motion shall be carried by a majority vote in such manner that the vote of each member is ascertained and recorded in the minutes.
Good. And then we're going to be discussing school safety.
Discussing school safety. We have a motion to go into
I'd
executive.
like to make a motion to close the open session and go into closed session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jason,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Craig,
Yep.
Crosby, yes.
We are now back in open session.
I'd like to make a motion. The board moves to purchase the technology discussed in closed session to enhance the safety and security of all of our properties.
Second.
Any more discussion? Concern?
Need to
Could
vote
you
on
have
it?
to have a roll call?
No, it's just a regular vote.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Move
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourned.